We're waiting to hear from Helena Dalli, European Commissioner for Equality, European Commission, on her keynote address before commencing this next session.
We want women to be equal in business, finance and society. Yet right now in the EU, women only make up 30% of members on company boards of the largest listed companies. Women only hold 26% of the central bank's key leadership positions. Women only account for 18% of heads of states. And only 33% of national parliamentarians are women. This gap is everywhere you look. For instance, measure the gender gap in today's list of speakers. It is because of this reality that leading equally throughout society is one of the 3 pillars of the European Commission's gender equality strategy. The European Commission wants to lead by example. Led by a woman for the first time and with a gender-balanced College of Commissioners, we are aiming to mainstream equality in all areas of life and achieve a union of equality. Women must be equally represented at the top positions of business, finance and society because the decisions taken there influence economic development, monetary stability, employment and growth. Decision-making is hardly ever a neutral process, and the lack of women's inclusion will invariably lead to skewed gender outcomes. We must change this. The Commission is therefore committed to unblocking the 2012 legislative proposal to increase transparency in the selection of board members. We know from the experiences in member states that gender targets can truly accelerate equal representation. But this is only one way to improve gender balance. One of the most fundamental barriers to gender imbalance in leadership positions is deeply rooted stereotyping. Gender stereotypes limit the aspirations, choices, and freedom of women and girls, but also of men and boys. They impose expectations about how women and men should behave in the public sphere and in their private life. In view of this, the Commission is launching an EU-wide communication campaign to combat gender stereotypes. In the process towards leading equally in society, we must critically assess what we have accepted as normal standards through the equality lens and not hesitate to change what needs changing. I thank you.
Our next session is, of course, on gender equality, and it is with great pleasure that here with me on stage is Magda Zenon of the Mediterranean Women Mediators Network and Emine Colak, who will be joining us online, and they will both be moderating the next discussion. Magda, Emine, the floor is yours.
So close to our hearts.
Emine's mute.
Can the forum hear me? Opportunity to address the forum today on this important issue, and our heading is gender equality. It's time, but I think the answer is obvious. Yes, of course it's time, and if well past time. And if today also the theme is sustainability, then gender equality has to be prioritized urgently, and not just as a topic or a heading out on a limb, but in relation to every field, on every level, and in every possible dimension, in a holistic manner. Not just as an occasional exercise in political correctness or ticking boxes, but systematic, meaningful presence and participation of women, and a
We seem to be having an issue with our online. Emine, can you hear us?
Would you like me to?
Yeah, can the other two ladies hear us?
We can clearly, yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Can.
yeah, we're having,
Say,
yeah,
It seems to be Emine that's having the
it
problem.
seems to be Emine that's having the issue. So would you like to go ahead, Magda, and moderate?
Okay, I will take over.
Take over.
I will take
Thank you.
over,
Thank
and
you,
I will
Magda.
also, because Emine is the first speaker, I'm Magda, I'm part of Mediterranean Women Mediators Network. I will pass the floor to my fellow panelist, Layik Topcan, who will speak, who is an environmental and peace activist and a town planner. Layik, the floor is yours.
So the process of change. I'm a town planner, an environmentalist who just devoted my entire life for just build a contribution of on making the livable cities. On that woman was absent. So what I want to talk about today is, since the topic of our panel is gender equality, and is it time? Yes, it is time, because for cities to have a sustainable, resilient, healthy cities, inclusion and participation is very important. Inclusion is important because all the stakeholders, including women, young girls, and all parts of the society, should be included in the participation process. Because we all know that participation is about achieving sustainability. Because participation creates trust. Participation brings in ownership. Participation brings in ownership and responsibility. Once you have stakeholders own the process and all the decisions for the future of more sustainable, more responsive for all the groups of the society, including women, will be much easier. Of course, when we talk about women, women groups are not homogeneous groups. There are different types of women groups. We have rich women. We have uneducated women. We have women workers, caretakers. We have refugee women. We have foreigners. We have young students, girl students. And all the needs of these different groups of women are different. So it is important to bring into all these women groups into the picture. And participation is about sustain, and the sustainability is not only about economic development. It also has two more dimensions, two more pillars. That is environment, and also the social life and culture. Sustainability is about peace. And without having a peace in this country, in any part of the world, we cannot talk about sustainable development or sustainable future. Personally, I have a dream for this country by 2040. I'm dreaming a unified, well-functioning, prosperous Cyprus with a high quality of life, where all the citizens are living in peace. As a center of regional cooperation and reconciliation in the Mediterranean basin based on bicommunal interdependency and partnership. I am dreaming an island where all people are respected regardless of their ethnicity, religion, gender orientation, race, status, political and ideological differences, where the rule of law and human rights are all effective, and where social cohesion and the coexistence are enjoyed. And a home country built on values of ecological justice, intergenerational, gender and the ethnic equality, equity, and social inclusion, cooperation, and partnership. An island where peace and prosperity are shared. The environment and its natural beauty are protected. Our common historical and cultural heritage, heritage, including our monuments, villages, cities, local architectural cultural value are protected and used in our daily life and for a safe, healthy, and resilient and sustainable. A country where human settlements providing access to safe, affordable, accessible, sustainable transport system for all, improved road safety and country with human settlements providing universal access to the safe, inclusive, and affordable green and public spaces. A Cyprus by 24, where everyone wants to live, to do business, and to visit and to be happy. This dream can only be realized when all people of Cyprus across the divide share it as a common vision and join their forces and efforts to pave the way towards this shared vision, a vision that will bring peace and unification of the island. Until then, how can we pave the way towards this future? How can we make our cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, healthy, and resilient and sustainable? Unfortunately, spatial planning has not been gender into the development plans in Cyprus. And not only Cyprus, of course, we see the same situation in many parts of the world, including Europe. The integration of the gender dimension in the gender inequality is going largely under discussed. Recent studies have shown that the economic and the health disparities between men and women have worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. While the economic health impacts of the COVID-19 on the gender equality are well documented, the impact of the pandemic on the gender inequalities in the cities and human settlements have not received a well-deserved attention. Coming back to Cyprus, human settlements, urban, what do you see? Let me tell you what I see. I see more exploitation of environmental resources, exploitation of agricultural soil, coastal areas, and habitat areas. I don't see any cooperation for our cities or the island. The only success story of a joint effort and effective cooperation for the joint planning venture is for Cyprus, for Nicosia. You know, the Nicosia master plan was prepared back in 70s, right after the 74 war. During the last 40 years, a collaborative effort could have been made to develop a strategic development framework for the entire island. It is still possible. Why not form a technical committee for island-wide spatial strategy, similar to the bicommunal technical committee for island-wide historical and cultural heritage? which has a long story of success in protecting Cyprus' heritage. My dear friends, the environment and its natural resources, as well as conflict, our cities and villages should not be treated as resources to be exploited or as bargaining chip or at the conflict negotiation table or space to be divided among the different social groups of society in our respective communities or across the divide. Building shared responsibility based on cooperation for the protection of the biodiversity, habitat areas, marine life, gas, oil, water, pandemic, and natural disasters, climate change will be a leverage for sustainable peace. Integration of the environmental and natural resources, as well as women's participation and gender understanding, will strengthen the peace process, increase the chance of reaching the durable peace resolution, as well as sustainable and resilient communities, and thus a sustainable future. Is it not high time to integrate gender responsive approaches to achieve gender equality and justice, as well as effective participation of women in environmental protection and the creation of sustainable, resilient human settlements and communities until the climate is more favorable for peace resolution and work together to protect our environment, natural resources, and create sustainable settlement? How can we develop cooperation and partnership across the divide for the development of inclusive, safe, healthy, and resilient cities and villages that would generate jobs and employment, strengthen, build social cohesion, and provide quality of life? We all know that vision without action can only be a dream. I hope and wish one day in near future, my dream will become a shared vision and come true with all courageous actions by courageous people of Cyprus and genuine friends of Cypriot people. I thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Layik. I will take over and I will speak on the matter of gender budgeting. A year and a half into life under the pandemic, what has been revealed very intensely is the major inequalities between men and women in wages, in poverty, in pensions, and in household responsibilities. We have also seen how vital care work is, much of which is done by women, and if it is paid, the salaries are very mediocre. It has shown us that care is a collective need that needs collective responsibility, and it starts from caring for our children, caring for ourselves, caring for our dependents, and caring for the elderly. What has also become apparent is that women have kept societies going in the pandemic beyond what they usually do, and they have received very little appreciation, support, and recognition. They are the majority of the frontline medical workers, and they also are the support services for things that have appeared during pandemic, which is things like the increase in gender-based violence incidents, especially partner violence, and women have taken the brunt of supporting them. They've provided home care and taken over from teachers and health professionals, in addition to balancing this unpaid work with their own professional responsibilities. They are at the supermarkets, at the food services, in the cleaning industry, and in the sanitation. So what we have before us is a macroeconomic model that is founded on unsustainable growth at the expense of exploiting people, especially women, and exploiting the environment of which there are limited resources. The way we collect taxes, the way we measure productivity and growth completely ignores the invaluable contribution of the invisible, unpaid and underpaid work of women. We have a model that is one size fits all. It's male, it's middle-aged, it's middle class, it's educated, it's healthy, and it's white. And it's a model that invests in things where men play the biggest part. That this needs to change is a no-brainer, and this is where gender budgeting comes into play. Gender budgeting, put simply, means preparing budgets or analyzing budgets with a gender lens, from a gender perspective. And if it's done, and gender budgeting, it has been said, when done well, is good budgeting, it's efficient budgeting. The major advantages of gender budgeting, firstly, is to advance women's rights and gender equality. The second is to promote accountability and transparency in fiscal planning, and God knows we need a lot of that. And this is not only Cyprus I'm talking about. And the third point is that it increases gender-responsive participation in budget processes, and by that I mean you make a conscious effort to include men and women equally when preparing budgets. It can be gender budgeting can be applied at the central government level and at regional levels. It is something that is entrenched in the vision and the mission of the EU within all the organs, encouraging and insisting that the member states implement gender budgeting within the framework of gender mainstreaming, and this also goes hand in hand with the implementation of the EU Green Deal. What are some of the benefits of gender budgeting? One of them is that empowering women to become active in their community boosts productivity. The second is if you empower women politically and economically so their voice is heard in decision-making processes of their community, the policies that come out reflect collective needs. Means no one gets left out. The third one is that when women have control or more control over family resources, more resources go to the children and benefit the children. And by improving the lives of our children, this enhances the growth prospects of the country where they are living. And if you want numbers, according to a study by IGA, which is the European Institute of Gender Equality, by addressing gender segregation in educational choices and increasing the participation of women in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, by 2050, there will be between 6.3 and 10.5 million additional jobs by 2050, of which approximately 70% will be taken on by women. And if we increase the underrepresentation of women in sectors that have skill shortages and good job employment prospects, and here again we're talking about the STEM industry, there will be increased employment productivity and in the potential capacity of the economy as a result. So when we say gender equality, is it time? Damn it, yes it is time. In fact, we're a few days late. We really need to start addressing the real economic problems in front of us from a horizontal level. Look at all the things that to date are not included within the dominant economic sphere, and without which the economy and the society would not be able to function. We need to include diverse voices in preparing budgets, and in this way, we will have a sustainable macroeconomic policy that includes the fundamental dimensions of economic, social, and environmental justice. This is a framework that doesn't leave women behind. In fact, this is a framework that leaves no one behind. But we need to start now. So where do we all sign up? Thank you. And I'll pass the floor to my fellow moderator, Emine.
Having a good day with technology today.
Emine, can you hear me?
Can you hear? I think I'm being heard now. I shall continue. Sorry for my having a bit with technology, but just to continue quickly with the snapshot that I wanted to give of women, gender roles, gender perspective in the field of mediation and peace building. Today I speak here in my capacity as a member of the Mediterranean Women Mediators Network, which was founded in 2017 in Italy, made up of countries around the core shores of the Mediterranean, and which is also a member of the Alliance of Regional Women Mediator Networks. Myself and 4 other Cypriot women, 3 of whom are with us today, we formed the first local branch, which we refer to as the Cyprus Antenna, in 2018. And we work to organize and train in mediation as an essential pillar of peace building and the creation of a peace culture within our society. Such networks aim to increase the number of women involved in peacemaking efforts and to facilitate the appointment of high-level women mediators at local and international level processes. These activities are guided primarily by the contents of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 of 2000, which basically urges all actors to increase the participation of women and incorporate gender perspectives in all United Nations peace and security efforts. And the resolution covers 4 basic pillars under the heading of participation, protection, prevention, and relief and recovery. Why is work so important? Why is it so crucial? Because between 1992 and 2019, for example, only 13% of negotiators and only 6% of peace deals were female, whereas research shows that peace tends long is more vulnerable when women are at the table. Women pay probability of peace lasting at least 2 years. The probability of a peace agreement lasting 15 years is increased by 35% when women are involved. A good example to look at would be the women of Liberia and how they campaigned and succeeded in peace of the inclusive process in their country to end violence there, especially after the year 2003. And look at the recent example of Afghanistan, where, okay, we know that the whole process and the transition was disastrous. But the takeover by the
I will jump in here, and I think, Leah, are you with us? Leah is a senior
am
official
with
at
you,
the
yes.
Cyprus Chamber of Commerce. Leah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My internet's been okay up to now. I hope it remains that way. Sorry for the glitches. This is technology, unfortunately. Thank you all for having me on this panel to discuss this very current and interesting topic. Congratulations to the organizers of this forum. It's really amazing to be here. Thank you. It's also amazing that we in the Western world still have the need to focus on, and if you allow me the expression, fight for something so inherently obvious as gender equality in the workplace. And I say amazing because in the Western world, we pride ourselves of so many liberties, one of which is equality of gender. But unfortunately, inequality in the workplace is a fact, as is the underrepresentation of women in high ranked positions in decision making. The issue is heavily discussed, but the process is painfully slow, and we need to drastically finally address these issues, be it through relevant, inclusive laws or incentives. Indeed, the time for gender equality is now. Well, it's not now, it's actually past. So we as individuals, the society, the business community, and the governments must decisively act. Gender equality starts at home, it's embedded in us through our education, and we reap the fruits in our adult work life. The stats read for themselves, and now it's time for some stats. So I'm going to be short on this because numbers don't lie. What we see is what we get, and unfortunately, in Cyprus, we get a 0% representation of women in the largest listed companies in the position of president. We get a 12.9% representation of women on the boards of these largest listed companies. Women in management in general reach 27%, but this includes all aspects of the workforce, private government, and politics. The pay gap, same story. Women in Cyprus earn a mere 19.6%, less than men in the private sector. The grim story is more or less the same in all aspects, although we do have some improvements. This is shown by the fact that from 2005 to 2010, the share of women increased among the board members from a 7 to an 11, showing that there is a process, but as we've said already, it is very slow. The fact remains, though, that Cyprus reports last in the EU in terms of gender representation. It is also being estimated on a global level that the pandemic has made things worse for women, and with an estimation that women have been set back by half a decade. Female make up half the population on this island, and again, more than half of our graduates are females, but we are not seeing an equal or at least a sufficient closing in the gap in terms of their representation in CEO or other high-ranked positions. And the fact is that although graduates start off their careers on equal grounds, throughout the years, men overtake women at a much faster rate. Examples matter. Women need role models if we are to break through these barriers, not just by highlighting the odd success story here and there. We need to develop organizational culture to embrace a different mindset that recognizes that equal representation of women is essential for making good decisions. Women's representation in the decision-making process is decisive to a country's social, economic, and innovation competitiveness. Higher capacity, innovation, financial and political growth are among the benefits reported from drawing policies that promote equal opportunities. And it's really surprising the time and Inca consultants and experts have spent on factually demonstrating the financial benefits from gender diversity in management. So it's appalling to see that companies are still hesitant and resisting to act upon this to increase their revenues. Critical diversity can only be achieved with equal and active participation of women in decision making. So why is this not being taken into consideration? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to this yet. Just to give you an example, under my role at the Chamber, on a daily basis, I have to work with CEOs and managers, and on a very, very rare occasion, these are women. Only the other day, we were preparing a guest list for a C-suite event, and the ratio of men over women is indeed abysmal. But it's not just that we don't have women in top positions in decision making. We are also up against glass walls, glass ceilings, where professions are split. The highest paid jobs like science, engineering, STEM has already been talked about, are male dominated, and lower paid jobs are dominated by women. This, of course, leads to job segregation and the gender pay gap. The pay gap percentage in Cyprus is almost 20%. Although the gap is much lower for new labour entrant markets, showing that there is equal level playing field again at the start off in their careers, this tends to widen with age. The gap increases with age as a result of the career interruptions women experience during their work life. Women are more likely to opt for a less demanding job because of childcare, and so there is a limited chance for them to have a direct position due to the chosen less work hours. And this is actually okay. It is okay if it is the choice of a woman to choose family over work. It is not okay when this comes at a cost of a career advancement and equal pay. The businesswoman and mother must be able to choose both, and society and business must allow and support this. What can we do? We need a truly fair and truly inclusive business environment so we can talk about gender equal businesses. Organizations, culture must remove barriers within organizations that stop us from making a fully inclusive work environment. Employers need to become more flexible, provide and support opportunities and initiatives at work, regardless of gender, and of course, equal salaries for men and women. Empowering women to participate in all aspects of everyday life can achieve local and global agreed goals for development and sustainability in many aspects. This will include quality life for women, men, and of course, communities in general. As a chamber, in cooperation with BPW Cyprus, we are working on various projects to promote access to the marketplace for women through business delegations and trade missions directed specifically to women and women's needs. The pandemic, and I'm closing because I know I'm almost out of time, the pandemic is paving a new path for us, a more holistic, inclusive, and caring path. By nature, these attributes are inherent in women, and women are the forces that will drive us through this change. A new economic model is in the making, and women must be at the forefront of it. Our education system needs to adapt to allow for this holistic and inclusive new business models. Fathers need to teach their girls it's okay to be the boss and pave her own path. Girls must have access and a broad education where stereotypically male-dominated degrees are up for grabs. Then, we as institutions and the business community need to embrace a gender-balanced culture. Thank you. I hope I haven't been too out of time. Magda, the floor is back to you. Congratulations, everybody, and hope you have a nice, good working for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
I'm
Thank
afraid
you.
we're going to have to close the panel now. We've run short of time. I just want to make a final comment. As a member of the Mediterranean Women Mediators Network, the most important part where there needs to be gender equality is in peace processes, because when you have women involved in peace processes, as in all processes, the result reflects the collective need. And maybe the leaders at the table need to look at why they haven't succeeded for so long. Maybe they need to change the way they look at things. And bringing women to the table may make the difference. Thank you for being invited, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Magda. Thank you. Thank you, Layik. Thank you, Leah. And thank you, Emine, Colak. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies.